it's good to be with you again. I'm Father Harahan, you know, the pastor of St. Rose of Lima. And for some time now, we have been distanced. We've been distanced because of the COVID-19, and we're beginning to speak now of perhaps getting back to coming to church, getting back to some of our regular practices, but we know that as we begin to think about coming back and returning to the life that we have known, that we're going to be doing things very differently. And here at St. Rose, we've been doing things differently and learning about what is going to be different on the horizon as we begin to think about what it means to reopen the church and have people return to this environment once again. So there are many things involved in opening, but the most important thing I believe to remember about us and reopening is that during the season of Pentecost that we just celebrated, during this time of Pentecost, we realize that we are a people of the Spirit. We're a people who are given a mission. We are baptized believers, and so one of the things that we do under the guidance of the Spirit is to come together for worship. It's been very difficult during these few months not to be able to be together for worship. We have done Masses on television and on YouTube. We've done services. We went through Holy Week and Easter. We've done many things on video and YouTube that allowed us to be together virtually, but we have not been together physically. It seems that we're at a time when, according to the governor and according to what other states are doing, that we may be close to being able to be together physically. But as we do that, we need to think very carefully about what lies ahead for us. There will be a big transition for us. We don't just open the door to the church and come back. What we need to do is listen very carefully to what are the best practices and what are the things that are required of us to make sure that our environment is as safe as it can be, to make sure that our environment reflects our concern and respect for one another in terms of how we share the same environment and the same resources in the building that we share as a church. And so as we look at what lies ahead, we listen carefully first to our governor and to the state of New Jersey. We look to local health guidelines and to what we should be doing in this area. We also look to the Archdiocese of Newark. Cardinal Tobin has begun to give us guidance and directives in terms of what it means to open and to gather again as a church. Cardinal Tobin has not yet given us a timeline. At this point, under his guidance, we are in what he calls phase 1, which means we open the church for a couple of hours on Sunday, and we look forward to coming to phase 2, probably within a few weeks, but we're not sure of that. We will listen carefully for what he tells us. And finally, we have a task force here in the parish. We've assembled a group of parishioners who are looking at different aspects of what it will take to be together again as church. And we're using this task force as a sounding board and a source of guidance for ourselves. I would ask you at this point, if you have an idea, if you have a thought or suggestion, if you have a resource or a person who could be helpful to us, and we're talking about an area that you say to yourself, wow, I know somebody who's really good at that, or someone knowledgeable, please send his or her name along to us. We would like very much to depend and rely on the resources of people who are already experienced in the things that we are seeking to do. But what we seek to do, we really do want to accomplish in terms of creating the best environment for all of us. There are many things to talk about in this regard, but today I just wanted to focus on one subject, and that's the subject of cleaning. How we will clean the church, take care of it, and make sure that we and the environment are all that we should be in terms of opening the doors of the church and conducting our worship services in a safe and a healthy way. Of course, when we come to church from now on, things will probably be a little bit different. One of the things that will happen is we will be experiencing social distance. So we won't be sitting together, crowded in our pews and together. We'll have to spread out. Households can sit together. Other than that, all of us will have to separate by 6 feet at least. So all of us will have to come to church and be ready to not sit in our same old seats, but to follow the direction of our ushers and sit in places that allow us all to feel safe and comfortable with social distancing. Social distancing will be important, especially when we come to communion, when we enter the church, when we leave the church. And all of these things will be worked out in time, but it's good to begin to think about them now. But social distance will be a big part of what we do. When we leave church, there probably will not be paper bulletins. Bulletins will be available online, and we will make some provision for bulletins to be available for people unable to get here. But for now, we know that paper bulletins will not be shared as they have been in the past. We know that from now on, the church will undergo constant cleaning. The church will be cleaned before and after each service. The church will be cleaned so that people coming will know that they're entering an environment which is safe and protecting, and people will know when they leave that the environment will be taken care of, so that all of us who come and those who come later will enter the environment kept clean by the same standards. There will be hand sanitizers available throughout the church. When we enter the church from now on, there'll be hand sanitizers, and there'll be hand sanitizers available once we're in church. One of the things that's happened with our task force is we did ask the task force to be sure that we were following best practices in terms of what we needed to do as a church. And so the task force has recommended that the church experience not only a deep cleaning, but a recommendation as to how to maintain deep cleaning going on in the future. One of the things that we have done is asked our task force to give us the best practices in terms of what we need to do to keep the church clean, and to allow everyone to follow the best procedures out of respect for each other and our environment. And so the church will undergo deep cleaning, and following up on deep cleaning, the church will be using things to keep our surfaces and environment clean that are what the best practices of today demand. And we'll be explaining and talking more about that in the future. The task force also looked into a way to take the temperatures of people as they enter church. There are ways to take temperatures of people as they enter our kind of worship environment, and the task force is looking into ways of doing that. And also, the task force has looked into systems to keep our air clean and to make sure our air is as clean as it can be. One of the suggestions of the task force that they are looking into is UV lighting, a UV lighting system that will take care of the air as it passes through our cleaning systems. So I'd ask a member of our task force, Ed Harrison, to talk to us a little bit more about the surfacing of these ideas, and specifically what they have found out and what Ed has discovered in terms of this UV lighting system.
Yes, Monsignor has asked the task force to look into various best practices that the industry might use as we approach this epidemic across the country. So we spoke to airports, folks that run major buildings, including the World Trade Center in Manhattan, and other places of worship, and also hospitals. So we have proposals on deep cleaning that recommend products and protocol that would not only clean, but disinfect the church as well. And we'll be evaluating that proposal. We will also be looking at a proposal that will have thermal temperature gauges as folks enter the church. A temperature read would be made of every person as they enter, and then identified and then retaken if they show that they have a temperature, and asked that they not participate. But also one that is really state-of-the-art technology is the use, as Monsignor has said, of UV lighting. This is really kind of a very interesting opportunity for us to evaluate. Some folks have proposed that we put UV lights or their portable units that we could go over the pews, but the best practices in hospitals and in commercial space is that these systems and purifiers be placed in the air ducts currently in use in buildings. So as the entire inventory, I'll say, of air recirculates through the church, it would get passed through these ultraviolet lights and these air purifiers, which reduce bacteria and virus that are airborne. And so it's a very interesting proposal. I have to say, there is a rush because the interest in these systems is enormous now. And there is a significant cost behind all these options that Monsignor and we all have to evaluate. But it's something that we have to take seriously as we move forward in this new age that we live in. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ed. Ed Harrison, as I say, is a member of our task force, and hopefully over the course of time you'll get to meet other members of the task force as well. But this task force will be working with us to be sure that we're keeping up with the best that we can do as we move through this very difficult and challenging time. One of the things that will challenge us, as Ed says, is the cost of some of these devices and some of these protocols. Through the kind donation of a parishioner, we are the beneficiary of a number of face masks. We have a large number of face masks for children and youth, and we are inviting families to purchase face masks for your children. As you purchase these, we're asking that you purchase an extra set so that we can include that extra set in the backpacks that we send annually to children in Newark or Elizabeth. And we ask that as you purchase a set for your family, that you purchase a set to put in the backpack that happens every year. And those backpacks containing the masks will be sent to children who need them. Certainly, having children keep track of masks and wearing them is a challenge, but we hope to be able to do that, and some of the money raised, some of the money needed to be raised for our projects will hopefully come through projects such as the donation of masks. Also, in addition to our cleaning practices that Ed has spoken about and that I mentioned earlier, we're also conscious of the fact that we need to be, even as a church, involved in what's called contact tracing. We need to know that if someone comes and eventually gets sick here, or if somebody came with the virus and is diagnosed as such, that we need to know who was here so that we can alert people and we can take care of the situation and deal with people as best as we can. So contact tracing will be a part of what we do once we get up and running with coming to church again. Also, we will be doing ongoing review of what our cleaning is, how we're cleaning, what products we're using, and all of the things that need to be handled so that we can promise to be as safe as we can be. Probably no environment is without its own risks, but we want to be sure that we have done everything we can to be sure that as we invite people to come back, we have followed the best practices and provided an environment that is safe for all of us. Through the next couple of weeks, I'll be speaking to you again about different topics. I'd like to talk to you about construction and what's gone on the parish property in terms of construction the past couple of months. I'd also like to talk to you about the sacramental life of the church, our baptisms, our marriages, confirmation, First Communion, religious education. But I also remind you to please pass along to us the names of anyone whom you think would be helpful in getting together people who are knowledgeable or can produce good ideas for us. And also, if you have questions or areas of concern that I possibly could address here and get information out to the parish, I'd certainly like to do that as well. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks again to Ed Harrison for being here with me. Thanks for the work of our whole task force. This is a very detailed and challenging process. Thanks to you, our parishioners, for being so supportive, for engaging with us even virtually over the past couple of months. And thanks to you all for praying as a parish and for maintaining the connection we have even as a virtual parish as life goes on and as we look forward to the days ahead. God bless you.